Hi, y'all. My name's Abe Mikell, former offensive coordinator and offensive line coach at Stuarts High School, a 2A school here in Virginia. I'm here to talk in this session about how in our pistol wing tee, we have belly adjustments to block any front. Belly was one of our base plays, kind of an identity play for us. And I'm going to show you guys today how we adjusted belly and the blocking up front to really adapt to any front, and we could run it at any time we wanted to. So today's session is really just going to focus on offensive line play. I'm not going to address anything else, just the offensive line play. I'm not going to talk about the wing blocking, tailback's footwork, or any of that stuff. I'll go over our base rules, and you'll see it on the diagram, but I'm really just focusing on offensive line today. And the purpose of that is so that you can know how we adapt our belly scheme to block any front that we face. And it's really, here are our goals for the day. So let's talk a little bit about our base rules before I start going into and drawing some diagrams for you guys and showing how we adapt and block stuff. So our base rules, let's start with our backside. You can see our numbering system here is 83 or 87, kind of a traditional wing T type thing, or 43 and 47. 80 series, and for us was the back, as you can see in the diagram, going behind the quarterback, faking rocket or a pitch for an option release. And 43, 47 was running jet motion in front of the quarterback. So that's essentially the only difference between the two, at least for us in the way that I coached it. We've got three versions of calls here: cross block, on block, or a reverse cross or fan call. I'll get into those in a little bit. But our basic rules, starting with our backside tackle. Backside tackle is told to scoop C. Backside tight end is scoop C. Backside tackle, scoop B. Backside guard, scoop A. Backside center, the center is scoop to play side A. His rules kind of vary. It's not exactly a scoop block, but we'll move up from there. You'll notice that difference between our rules and traditional wing T is traditional wing T starts out as fire on backer. You take a fire step in the wing T terminology, which means put your head in the play side gap, put the defender on your left shoulder. But it also tells you where your alignment is. So you take a fire step to capture that gap, or an on step if the guy is on top of you and you're blocking him. And then you move up to linebacker if you don't have either of those. I block it a little bit differently. I prefer to block the backside of belly more like a zone, or more like I learned the backside of triple option to block. And so I'll explain that in a minute. Play side guard, and play side tackle, their base rule is to pry open B gap. And how they do that is really up to them. We teach them some rules, and I'll talk to you guys about that, for identifying fronts. But for the most part, that is left up to them, how they pry it open. Now, they can cross block. That's traditional wing T. They can on block, which is also part of the traditional wing T. And we've got a couple of other variations. We can fan and block out with the guard and the tackle. Depending on the front, we can reverse cross. We can fold, block the guard out, and fold the tackle underneath with that. And so I'll show you those variations in a minute. The play side tackle, his rule is easiest path to backer or turn out on the defensive end. This rule can get kind of weird and kind of confusing for kids. And so I'm going to talk to you guys about how we identify who do you block? Who is the backer in this case for this? Then there's some notes there that you see versus a 2 and a 3 or a 3 technique on a guard and a 5 on the tackle. We cross block versus a 1 and a 5 with on, versus a 4-eye or inside shade of the tackle, and a 4, you block the overhang, and an end and overhang, we reverse cross, and you can also fan that. But I'll get into more detail into that in a second. So I've already talked about this a little bit, but how do you determine the on block versus the cross block? I let our kids figure it out. I teach them the rules for what the alignment are. I teach them the concept. We're trying to open up that B gap, and then I let them figure out the best way to do that. How you do that and where you start varies from year to year. If you have guys that are really strong, powerful blockers, you can on block it more than you cross block it. Base wing T rules, you start with the defensive lineman over the guard, and if he's head up, you block down with the tackle and you pull the guard. Well, sometimes we do that and sometimes we don't, because if the guy's in a 2 technique or head up, but he's pinching, it's harder for the offensive tackle to figure out. And at the same time, or to get to. And at the same time, if you've got a guard that can handle the defensive tackle, just go ahead and on block him. And so that's a variation of things, and kind of varies from year to year how we approach that. But you can see we handle the 2 technique in a lot of different ways. Last couple of years, our kids were confident in blocking it on, and so we blocked it on. But again, we kind of left that up to them. So over the course of the next several slides, I'm going to go through it. I'm going to draw some schemes for you guys, and you'll see how we scheme it up and we block belly. So the last section here is we're going to talk about a couple of variations to belly and how we vary our blocking on belly to just give some different looks to defenses. Our first variation I'm going to talk about is our tight end belly. Okay. Our tight end belly means that our tight end is replacing the wing back. So tight end belly equals tight end is the insert. Okay. So we're going to have to use that lead pull step that I talked about earlier, and that's how we block it. So everything else is essentially the same. So we're going to own on block. I'll go ahead and give us let's say a 2I or a 1 technique, depending on where you are and what you call that. Let's go defensive end here. And with this defensive end here, we'll consider, or we'll assume that he is a C gap defender. So he's going to be coming inside here. So that's kind of our base assumption there. All right. So we're going to on block this. We're going to turn out here. We're going to block out there, pry an open B gap, really simple. So with an on block, our tight end simply has to take a shallow drop step. The foot that he steps with is really dependent on how you want to coach it. He can open up and fold around. That's one option. Or he can take a skip bowl step, get some depth, first step and lateral, and then inside and insert. How you do that is up to you. In some video that I'll show a little bit later, or in another quick session, because this is a pretty long one here. In another session with some video, I'll show you how our footwork works on tight end belly, if I get time for that. So that's how we do that. Again, tight end belly means that the tight end is the insert and he is blocking for the wing back, because we might have our wing here and we're motioning him out, or across formation rather, or maybe we just don't have a wing there at all, and that gives us a way to do that, to block belly and still run belly with that same look. All right. So cross block rules are the same. Okay. We know we've got a C gap defender. We've got another defender anywhere from a 5 or out. So I'm going to put him right here inside shade of this, and that's going to create some interesting blocking for us. All right. So here's why that's going to create some interesting blocking for us. So we're going to block down here, just like we would left foot down step, right shoulder contact, play side guard pulls and kicks. It can get a little funky because some mesh and traffic, the guard and tight end can get caught up in traffic. And so because of that, we want a nice deep drop step. Again, we can step with the inside foot, nice and deep. We've done it that way. Or you can step with the outside foot, crossover pull on that depth, and then get inside. Regardless of which footwork you choose, he's got to get depth to allow this cross to happen. On block, it can be a shallow pull, shallow drop step, no big deal. All he's got to worry about is the tackle. But with a cross block, he's really got to be mindful of getting depth and allowing the cross block to clear and happen in front of him. That can be kind of tricky to do in a point of emphasis for your athletes. Now, if you get 3 defensive linemen to the right, you can read the defensive end, or rather read number 3 instead of having the tight end turn out on him. So let me show you guys how that would look. Okay, so I'm going to erase all there. Let's say we're going to go ahead and we're going to cross block this. We're going to get defender here. We're going to get a defender here. Outside shader head up, but you know we've got a B gap defender, a C gap defender, and they've got a linebacker walked out here. Okay, we get this sort of underfront all the time. With what we see, sometimes we get over fronts and this kind of funky look to the weak side. So this is how we would block this. So in this case, we can read number 3. Against these kinds of fronts, you're going to have a backer probably around there. All right, and we're still going to crosswalk, cross, left foot down step, right shoulder contact, pull step, and kick. Tight end still has to make sure he takes a nice deep drop step and inserts. One issue with this is that sometimes you get these guys that are coming really hard and can knock your tight end off path. Okay, but that does happen. But that's another way that we've run tight end belly versus a front that looks like that. So let's take a look at what it looks like against an odd front with what would be a fan or a reverse cross call. So we're going to go a nose, a 4 or a 4I, and an outside linebacker. So we know that our center can handle that. So that's why we're making this call. We're making a fan or a reverse cross call. If your center can handle things by himself and nose guard by himself, that is ideal. Okay. So let's reverse cross this. We're going to block out. He's going to pull and he's going to insert. He'll block either he's going to go to the backside backer. I messed up on that one. He's going to go to actually the backside backer. And we've practiced this. We don't run this a whole lot against this kind of front, but it's an easier path for him to move up to a backside backer on that. All right. And then our tight end is going to kind of look like a double pull. He drops steps and he's going to follow the tackle and lead. Okay. Looks kind of like a double pull. And in this case, if there is an outside linebacker, you're reading that guy. Okay. Or defensive end, whatever you want to call it. All right. What I would call an overhang. Now, lastly, you can fan this and make it look a little bit more traditional. Okay. Nose guard, tackle, head up or inside shade, outside linebacker. Fan call, block out, block out. That's a long block. That can get kind of tough. And again, we've got to make sure that we drop deep step here and then the tight end inserts for the wing there. Again, if we're running tight end belly, we do not have a wing. So no wing to that side to insert or lead that. Okay. Again, the purpose of this presentation is just offensive line and blocking it. And our wingback's block doesn't really change a whole lot. His insert might change and who you're looking for change a little bit, but not a ton. So here we go. We've got some video of us running belly. These videos are going to be mostly out of pistol, maybe some sidecar. I selected everything in about a 3 or 4 year period where we got 5 yards running belly. Okay. So let's take a quick look at this. Here we go. We're going to run belly to the left. This is our unbalanced formation to the left, 3 backs running it to the left. This is our version of tight end belly. I mentioned this earlier. So we traded the tight end across to get to that unbalanced formation. Looks like we on-blocked it, tight end inserted. So let's see what that looks like from the end zone. Oh, we didn't get an end zone cut on that. Let's go back. No end zone cut on this. So let's take a look and see what this looks like here. All right. So on the front side, our players clearly called an on block, which means this left tackle is going to turn out. The guard should block down on this defensive tackle here. The tight end is going to drop step and insert, and we'll have this linebacker here. Okay, so let's look at the front side. That's the far side of the field first. Let's walk it through it. Got an on block. That guy must have been in a shade. I can't really tell from here. We turn out. Our guard and our center are working up to here to that linebacker. You can see our tailback, or rather our tight end drop stepping in. So I talked a little bit about the footwork on this in that previous session. Look at him skip back. He just takes a simple drop step, lets the on block clear. Remember, you don't have to allow as much space on that. Our center overruns the backside backer a little bit. We get a hat on the inside backer. And our tailback's picking up 5 yards before he even makes contact. So we did a pretty good job on that. Let's take a look at the backside, see how we block that, and see how things go there. Okay. I would have liked our backside tackle here to get his head across just a little bit more so he can work up. And that way this backside guard can work up as well. So I would have preferred that, but still ineffective. See him come off later. He does come off on that just a bit later. All right. So that's not a bad play. Anytime you get 5 yards, that's definitely considered